when you're making that transition from the group identity that you're chasing as a teenager to becoming an individual, and that's not a journey everyone takes because lots of people just get lost in group identity, you're going to be looking for a pathway that's essentially heroic. And what that pathway should be is that you identify with your culture deeply, you are socialized deeply into the traditions of your culture, but you're also capable of transcending it. So then you become a culture creator as well as a disciplined member of culture. But young people need to be offered something like a vision of destiny in order to catalyze their identity. And we're very, very bad at that, except on the ideological front. So the woke types come along and say, the planet's a virgin, the great father's a tyrant. You could be a hero if you just stood up to that. And the kids think, well, I'd like to do something important with my life. And so they're just caught into that immediately. But because it's a one-sided story, a one-sided religious story is an ideology.
And a great representation of that is what they've done with Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny, because I thought 10 years ago, we live in the delusion of a disturbed 13-year-old girl. How did that happen? And then, Greta Thunberg showed up, and I thought, oh, well, there we go. Now we've got the 13-year-old. I feel sorry for her, because she was chased into this apocalyptic terror that we're trying to enforce on all our kids. And then you think about her position, so now she's all afraid and her mother's facilitating that like mad. And then, she announces her fear, her neurotic fear, essentially. It's driven by negative emotion. And, Macron says to her, oh my God, Greta, you're absolutely right, and bows. It's like, what the hell's a girl to think? Because what she really wants is to freak out a bit and for someone calm and reasonable to say, hey, look, kid, the apocalypse has always been on us. It's always the case that the future has the possibility of being dreadful. But, we've conquered terrible things in the past and overcome massive obstacles. And there's no reason at all not to assume that we can do the same thing.
That's a very important point.
Well, yeah.
It's such an important point because there's never been a time ever where everything was perfect.
Well, that's for sure.
There's never been a time ever environmentally where the earth was stable.
No.
If you go, stable, currently you can kind of like guess what the weather's going to be. But if you look at like models of like thousands of years, it's never been flat. It's always been up and down, heats up.
Well, the earth was
freezes.
an ice ball many times.
Yeah, many times.
Yeah, so yeah, well.
Randall Carlson was saying there's been times in our like distant past where the CO2 levels and the oxygen levels were so fucked up that we were close to losing all life on Earth.
Right.
And then this can happen.
See, the antithesis to that is to believe in something like the intrinsic paradisal stability of well-balanced Mother Nature.
Right.
It's like, yeah, a bit, but no, not really. There's a lot of variability, a lot. And of course, that kind of variability, that's hard on people because you want a certain amount of stability so you don't die.
Right, but it doesn't deny that human beings have an impact on this either.
No. Well, this is why I really respect Bjorn Lomborg, because Lomborg's hard to grasp because he forces you to think complexly. He says, well, we don't have one problem, carbon dioxide, which is, I don't even think it's clear that carbon dioxide is actually a problem, but we can leave that aside. That'll get me in trouble with the College of Psychologists again. But, Lomborg says,
it's
look,
a factor.
Yeah, it's a factor, yeah. But there's lots of factors, and God only knows what the most pressing problems that confront us truly are. When I wandered through the ecological sustainability literature about 10 years ago, and, I concluded a couple of things. One was that the best way forward to a sustainable planet is to make everyone who's poor rich as fast as you possibly can.
And that's Lomborg's position,
not
too.
to put limits to growth on, because it turns out if you get people above about $5,000 a year in average GDP, they start taking a long-term view of the future instead of scrabbling around in the dirt trying to get lunch, and you're going to burn everything up around you to stay alive if you have to.
Right.
But if you got a bit of wealth and now you can think over, maybe a 20-year period, which is quite the damn luxury, then you actually start being concerned about, the quality, the aesthetic quality of the local environment. And so